A family ate 1-year-old frozen leftovers for breakfast. This is what happened to their
Guys, wait! I think I have like 1-year-old stuff in my freezer.
organs. DC is a 45-year-old man presenting to the emergency room with nausea, vomiting, and diffuse bleeding. He tells the admitting physician that a burning sensation had permeated just below his chest when he got to work that morning, and that very quickly, pain started to consume his entire body. Earlier that day, DC was having breakfast with his wife and kids. All 3 adult children had been home for the holiday and to
Oh, wait, that's bad. Guys, I thought when food is frozen, you can eat it forever.
commemorate the first morning on the day back to work and school, DC's wife, MC, prepared a little something special. DC and MC were from a town where fermented corn noodles were a local tradition. A year earlier, MC had prepared a batch of these noodles for a special occasion. During preparation, everything was fine. The noodles looked, tasted, and smelled totally okay, so absolutely everything was no problem.
Because when it heats back up, the bacteria form and they go to
She
life.
packed them up and put them in the freezer, and they were there for a year before she prepped them for this special holiday breakfast. The older son, Ace, really despised these noodles. Ever since he was a kid, he couldn't stand the texture. They were served in a sour soup that he just couldn't handle. The taste was always off-putting to him, so during this meal, he elected to have his potato chips instead. Sitting across from him and
the one timeline where Ace actually makes it. Oh my God,
it was his younger sister, SC, who loved the noodles. She loved to make fun of this older brother of hers who just wasn't having any of it. Despite being working adults earlier in their career, they were still children in their parents' eyes, and they still fought like they did when they were children. To SC, her brother's loss was simply her gain. And it wasn't only her gain. The youngest, BC, maybe the parents' favorite, was still a college student, and he intensely enjoyed the noodles. He loved them as a kid, and this time was really something special because they were extra delicious this time. He not only finished his share, but his parents kept giving him more and more. It was so delicious, and he ate so fast that he almost choked on them. The breakfast was a great time that the family had together, but
I choke on noodles all the time, guys! It's part of the experience.
Finally, it was over. Holiday had come and gone. It was time to go back to work and school. DC, as head of household, left first for the office. He felt full and satisfied at such a fantastic breakfast. BC, the youngest, left to head back to his college dorm so that he could study for an upcoming quiz.
No,
Ace
guys,
had to head out back to his apartment in the neighboring city, but not without making fun of his sister SC on the way out. And finally, SC had to go get ready for work herself as Mother MC stayed back to clean up, happy that everyone enjoyed a delicious and nutritious celebratory breakfast.
You guys never choked on noodles, really? Do you even eat noodles?
And everything was great, but in less than an hour, something was wrong. While she was putting away the dishes, MC started feeling bloated. At first, it was just some abdominal discomfort, but a piercing sensation started rippling through her body, and she needed to sit down. She felt like her head was pounding. Getting up, MC tried to wash the dishes, but her legs felt weak, and she felt her guts quake and shake like they were trying to squeeze everything that she had just eaten back up. When she was finished, she went over to the couch to try and relax because she thought she could sleep this off. Hours after eating his delicious breakfast, BC had gotten back to his dorm room. It was time to get back into the groove of things and study for his upcoming quiz. Unlike his mom, he had been feeling great on the way back to school. He was even feeling great when he started studying, but the air in this room felt kind of stale.
Guys, isn't it because people's bodies are different, so they process the food earlier or later? Because some people who process food faster, they have the symptoms faster? Is that
When he started coughing, he felt something move in his stomach. He wasn't sure what was going on. Maybe something was stuck in his throat. He stood up to change the position of his body, but then it felt like his insides were getting dragged towards his feet, and he could see the floor start to spin. On the chair, in a world of hurt, BC was gasping for air, unable to understand where the sudden pain came from.
Oh my God!
His head felt like it was pounding, and the rhythm of each pulse of pain sent waves through his entire body. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced before. It knocked the wind out of him as he was brought down to the ground. At the office, Sister SC was working. Sometimes being here...
Guys, is this a normal reaction to food? Oh, it's a parasite!
Caused her stress to the point of weird bowel movements. An awkward coworker, who she didn't really like, would walk over to the fridge to get drinks. This particular person made everyone uncomfortable, especially when he would wear shorts to work. Essie didn't like being at her desk most of the time, but this time she felt a discomfort like never before. It started in her chest, but she wasn't sure where.
The poor colleague. What are you saying freak me for?
Then it became a
I don't know what they inside
cough,
him.
but the more she coughed, the more intense the pain became. And then her head started pounding as
She felt very bad and she was dying. But that guy behind her? Yeah, that's a bad coworker. He's weird and nobody likes him. Anyway, she
tried to get up to go to the bathroom. Her legs felt weak, and then suddenly they gave out. In a fetal position on the floor, Essie rocked back and forth to try to stave off the waves of pain quaking in her stomach. At his studio, Father DC was also...
Yo, the shade! Did you see that?
Working. Breakfast was 3 hours ago now, and it was almost time for lunch. When he got to work, he could feel a dull, burning sensation just below his chest. He wasn't sure if he was bloating. It was getting harder to concentrate. DC took a sip of water, but as it touched the back of his throat, a sensation rippled through his nose, and the water came right back up. A burning pain radiated through his body as he suddenly felt like his eyes were pushing out of his skull. On the ground, sweating, DC could only huddle over because the hurt was so intense. As minutes passed, he was able to gather enough strength to go to the bathroom to try and empty his stomach into the toilet, but nothing he did would help, as he calls for an ambulance, and he's the first family member brought to the emergency room, where we are now. At examination, the medical team could see that DC was in severe pain. They gave him medicines for it, but other than that, they couldn't really find anything wrong physically.
Cheer 100 greatest of greetings mighty legendary class Drago Fraiki. Thanks for standing today as he recover from a cold. Guess he got nothing else to do but work on artsy fartsy stuff you've been putting off. Thanks for being you.
Skippy. Get some rest, okay?
But a blood test finds that DC has hyperglycemia. Hyper meaning high. Glyce from ancient Greek referring to sugar or glucose.
High sugar?
And emia meaning presence in blood.
In noodles?
High sugar, presence in blood. DC never got to eat lunch, but his most recent meal was 1-year-old frozen leftover noodles, which
Wait, guys, do noodles have sugar?
were made from fermented corn and thus made of carbohydrates, which are broken down to sugar by the body. This meal could explain his hyperglycemia, but the body releases insulin after one eats a meal to force sugar in the blood from the meal into the body's cells to be used for energy. This prevents hyperglycemia, so the carbs from the noodles can't be the cause of his hyperglycememia, but the liver stores sugar as part of its normal function. If it's not functioning
Guys, I would eat 1-year-old frozen noodles.
normally, it could leak these stores
Is this a bad case, or is this every noodles of a year?
out, causing high sugar presence in blood. Another blood test reveals that DC's kidneys and his liver have started to shut down. Put together, this suggests that his hyperglycemia is because of liver dysfunction. A CT scan showed that small deposits of fat were all over his liver. At this point, doctors were still able to speak with DC. He told them about how the pain suddenly developed after his breakfast of 1-year-old frozen leftover noodles. But as his symptoms rapidly progressed, they were no longer able to speak to him because he wasn't conscious anymore. And another blood test finds that he now has hyperammonemia, high ammonia presence in blood. Proteins that you eat and proteins from a regular catabolism or breakdown of muscle get metabolized in the liver. In regular function, this processing results in a chemical called
not the
urea, which is eliminated from the body through the urine. But DC's liver is shutting down. Those proteins can't be handled normally. Instead of urea, they become ammonia. And as that ammonia spills into his blood, it gets into his brain. This could be the reason why it's shutting down as he becomes unconscious, but something more might be happening. In the bed next to DC was another newly admitted patient, BC, a 21-year-old man.
Wait! He's next to BC!
Who told the same doctors about a sudden onset nausea, vomiting, and severe abdominal pain that came just a few hours after eating 1-year-old frozen leftovers. A blood test also finds that BC's liver and kidneys are shutting down. In an intense amount of pain, BC could only focus on himself in the hospital. The floor would spin every time he closed his eyes. He couldn't look around to see what else was happening. The doctors thought that it was a bit of a coincidence that 2 different patients came in around the same time with the same symptoms, but it wasn't going to stop here. A 3rd patient was admitted and placed
No! MC or CC?
into the same room. A 24-year-old woman, SC, who also presented with sweating, palpitations, and severe abdominal pain. Her blood test also revealed the same liver dysfunction like the other 2 patients in the same room. She described to the doctors that all of this emerged within 3 hours after she had 1-year-old frozen leftover noodle breakfast with her family. She could say
Wait, the mom. The mom's not there.
This while she was still conscious, and it was here where one of the doctors really noticed the pattern. These patients all had the same.
Wait. Guys, DC, MC. If DC means dad, SC means sister, MC's mother, what's AC? Adopted! Wait! Guys, there's so much lore! What's AC then? Why is it not BC? Because BC's brother! What's the AC? Oh,
Same last name, although it was a very common one. They all ate the same breakfast at around the same time. At this point, none of them could be asked if they recognized each other because they were all incapacitated. This rapid onset of symptoms on the order of minutes to just a couple of hours not only gives the medical team some clues as to what happened.
No, BC's the brother, but the brother of the brother is called AC. Because they don't have B. Why isn't he not BC too?
But it also gives them reason to suspect a potential outbreak that needs to be reported to local authorities so that they can alert the public that something terrible could be spreading around. The fermented sour soup corn noodles that the family had eaten is called swantangzi. Mother MC had prepared it 1 year earlier following the traditional process. When it was freshly made, some family members had also eaten it and nothing happened. Everyone had a nutritious meal. But when it was defrosted and prepared this second time, something had gone wrong.
No.
Food is frozen because the 0-degree temperature inactivates the bacteria and molds that cause spoilage, allowing us to eat the food at a later date. But that inactivation doesn't eliminate these microbes. If they were there in large amounts before freezing, they're still there during and after the freezing. But are they really the problem here? Food poisoning can cause stomach pain and liquid to exit both ends of the body on the order of minutes to hours. That's from the microbes. But food poisoning isn't sudden kidney and liver failure happening on the order of minutes to hours after eating the food. It's very unlikely that bacteria or fungus could do this quickly. This rules out an infectious cause of their problems.
Wait, were those spices in the meat? I thought it was like mold or
meaning
something.
That a toxin or a poison is somehow involved, and it's involved with the noodles when they were thawed and prepared, or a poison is somehow involved, and it's involved with the noodles when they were thawed and prepared the second time. But it's not just their kidneys and liver shutting down now, but also their brain, because BC, DC, and SC have all become unconscious. Just before one of the family members had fallen ill, they had called Ace to tell them that they were going to the hospital. No one else could be reached because everyone was becoming ill. In a rush, Ace left work. He only expected the one who contacted him to be sick, but when he arrived to the hospital, he got to the department. When the doctor brought him to the room, her suspicions were confirmed. Everyone here was family, and to Ace's shock, almost his entire family was here. Given that he was the only one who didn't eat these noodles that morning, it prompted the doctor to give more information to the public health authorities. At the local office, investigators immediately started to take a look. In less than 24 hours, they were able to get samples of the
a lot of Asian families also die from homemade alcohol and tonics. It's super common.
Exact noodles that were eaten during that breakfast. Realizing that these were homemade, it gave them
What is that,
some relief because a commercial product would have been distributed more widely, but this wouldn't preclude the possibility that contaminated ingredients used to make these noodles could be out in the public. In the hospital, Ace was in disbelief, but it wasn't finished. A 4th patient, MC, a 44-year-old woman, was admitted to the hospital with the same nausea, vomiting, and diffuse bleeding before she fell unconscious while receiving treatment. Ace, in a panic, had no idea what to do. His entire family was in this room just hours after eating breakfast, celebrating the holiday.
Did he not call the mom?
The liver is one in the hospital with the same...
Wait, is she... Oh, the
fourth patient, MC, a 44-year-old woman, was admitted to the hospital with the same nausea, vomiting, and diffuse bleeding before she fell unconscious while receiving treatment. Ace, in a panic, had no idea what to do. His entire family was in this room just hours after eating breakfast, celebrating a holiday. The liver is one of the largest organs in the body. Because of this size, a substantial percentage of the body's blood is flowing through it at any given time. It's one of the most metabolically active parts of the body because it chemically processes everything that passes through it, meaning that it needs...
Oh my god! Guys, can a human live without a liver? I see so many things that give... that the liver does... It's an issue with the liver. Can you just remove the liver and...
a lot of energy. Do you remember DC's hyperammonemia? It happened because his liver couldn't process proteins into urea anymore, leaving it as
liver. You need to leave
ammonia. The liver needs energy to perform this conversion, but because this conversion isn't happening anymore, then we could say...
Wait, the liver grows back? So it's like a lizard? If I cut my liver and I... How long does it take to regen?
That there might be something wrong with the liver's energy production. When DC, BC, SC, and MC all presented to the emergency room, they had hyperglycemia. But hours after being admitted into the hospital, repeat blood tests find that they all
I do not know if the ads play or not. I don't know.
Hypoglycemia, low sugar presence in blood. If sugar is supposed to be used by cells to make energy, and everyone's blood sugar suddenly went from high to low, and their livers aren't performing functions that require a lot of energy, then what exactly is happening? Well, human nutrition is made of 3 macronutrients.
Do we know at this point the
carbohydrates, proteins, and fats.
No, right?
These all get converted to energy in the body. We just established that every family member who fell ill is having problems with not only carbohydrates, but they're also having problems with proteins as well. But what about fats? CT scans of everyone's abdomen at admission found fatty deposits all over everyone's liver. The liver tried to release sugar because the body thought cells needed it to make more energy. But then those stores ran out. The liver couldn't process proteins anymore. Ammonia spilled into the blood, possibly shutting down their brains. And when the body tried to use fats to produce energy, the lipids backed up and started flooding the cells. All of this happening everywhere in the body, but most visible in the liver. This gives doctors and public health investigators more clues as to what happened. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Every cell has thousands of them, and they produce energy through a huge series of chemical reactions, and by exploiting electrochemical differences. Because this process is so long and so complex, with so many moving parts, it means that there's a high potential for exogenous substances to disrupt any single part, shutting down the entire process. For example, cyanide shuts down electrical activity here in the mitochondria, starving cells of energy. Aspirin, in very large doses, dissipates the electrochemical difference, preventing the final step of energy production. And a medicine used for seizures and migraine, among other ailments, known as valproic acid, can sometimes stop the processing of fats for energy in the mitochondria and causing fats to spill out into the cell. But none of these substances were in the fermented corn noodles that the family ate. So what exactly was there? When the 4 family members presented to the emergency room, doctors had pumped their stomachs. At the
Guys, I get it! The air conditioner! It had, the air... I don't know.
Time, they weren't sure exactly what happened, and this was a measure that could possibly mitigate some of the issues that they were having. Public health investigators examined that fluid and compared it to the findings from the samples of noodles that they collected at the house. And what they found told them everything that they needed to know. One bacteria that can appear on corn is Burkholderia gladioli. It's found in soil. Investigators didn't find this bacteria on the noodle samples, and that should make sense because the noodles were cooked, and cooking kills bacteria. But investigators knew it was present on these noodles at some point after
the bowls! They didn't wash the bowls!
They were frozen and before they were eaten by the family, because on the surface they detected something that's made only by Burkholderia gladioli when it's
Ravioli.
Unfermenting corn. This toxin is heat stable. Cooking doesn't destroy it. It doesn't smell, and it doesn't change the color of the food that it's on. Extremely small amounts of this toxin shuts down all of the organs, starting with the liver, the kidneys, and then the brain, while causing permanent damage. And unfortunately for the family, this toxin was found all over the noodles, and it was found in the stomach pump fluid collected from DC, BC, SC, and MC in an amount 33 times the known lethal dose. This toxin is named bonchrecic acid. At this realization, doctors and public health officials needed to speak with MC about how these leftover noodles were prepared this time, but they can't get any answers from her because she was unconscious with multi-organ failure. Bonchrecic acid doesn't interfere with energy
This is worse than rat poison?
production, but rather it prevents adenosine triphosphate, the molecule that cells use for energy, from being released. This mechanism is so delicate that there's a different toxin that does the same thing, but on the opposite side of the membrane. The buildup of ATP inside the mitochondria causes a backup of energy and confuses the body, thinking that there's no energy available, when in reality, it was made, it just can't be released. And this disruption of normal function causes a congestion, which in the liver manifested as fatty deposits on the CT scan, but actually appears in every single organ, quickly shutting everything down. Cells can't perform any function, and they quickly cease to exist. But why does Burkholderia gladioli make bonchrecic acid on fermented corn? When you look at the chemical structure, bonchrecic acid looks like a fat. Corn and coconut contain very specific fats. When Burkholderia gladioli starts growing on these fermented foods, it takes these fats and naturally starts to make bonchrecic acid.
Okay, pause. I've been understanding more than usual, but is it something that the mother puts on top of it?
Toxin appears to have some...
Or is it inside the noodles itself that stayed alive? The thing that stayed alive.
Properties that eliminates the fermenting yeast, but the side effect of eating this would be that it can eliminate humans, too. This has been known for hundreds of years. In Indonesia, a dish known as tempeh is usually prepared from fermented soybeans, but a variation known as tempeh bongkrek is made from fermented coconut. In the 1930s, during economic downturn, people started to make their own tempeh bongkrek from abundant coconuts, rather than buy it prepared from experienced producers. The inexperience in preparation would manifest as a fatal food poisoning, which started to happen so frequently that two Dutch scientists set out to examine why it was happening. They identified that a bacteria named Pseudomonas cocovenenans had grown on the fermented coconut and had made 3 different chemicals, the most toxic one known now as bonchrecic acid. When the genes of Pseudomonas
food named
cocovenenans was analyzed several years later, it was renamed to Burkholderia gladioli, pathovar cocovenenans.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna try to say it, okay? Burkholderia ravioli, pathovar cocomelons.
This bacteria is commonly found on plants and soil, but soybean tempeh and grain and oat tempeh can't be contaminated by it because none of these have the same fatty acid composition, inhibiting growth of Burkholderia gladioli and preventing the production of bonchrecic acid. Although some reports have come out showing a possible association with bonchrecic acid and soaked mushrooms and wet rice noodles. Because Burkholderia gladioli is ubiquitous in soil, it's possible that these mushrooms and certain rice can have some of the same lipid profile to encourage the bacterial growth.
Guys, ban coconuts, ban corn,
and toxin production, but this is likely very uncommon. Improperly stored leftover rice and pasta can grow a different bacteria named Bacillus cereus, of which mutated forms can produce a toxin known as cereulide, which directly disrupts energy production upstream the process where bonchrecic acid acts. While the Indonesian poisonings came from a coconut-based dish, DC, MC, BC, and SC's corn-based dish isn't isolated. At a funeral in 2015, Mozambique, a woman had brewed a corn-based local traditional beer to serve to attendees. Before the funeral was over, 267 people had consumed this beer, and symptoms of abdominal pain and malaise appeared within minutes to hours before
guys, this beer looks a bit
Motor
weird.
agitation and abnormal posturing preceded death in 75 people. The woman who had prepared the beer delivered it at 6 a.m. before the funeral started. She was not seen after the delivery, and at 2 a.m. the following morning, she was found not alive in her
75
house,
people?
being one of the first casualties. Post-mortem analysis of patients revealed that fluid had filled their lungs, that parts of their kidneys, stomach, and pancreas had necrosed. Their heart had turned bright red, and their brain had swelled with so much fluid that it folded on itself inside their skull, and fatty deposits had formed all throughout their liver. All of this coming from a disruption of cellular energy release due to a toxin. The brain damage probably wasn't just because of ammonia from the liver. It appears that it was damaged directly by the boncrecic acid. This multi-organ shutdown
Did this person know?
happened on the order of hours after consuming the corn beer, just like DC, MC, BC, and SC after they had consumed their 1-year-old frozen leftover fermented corn.
Guys, imagine what you must feel if you accidentally killed 75 people.
Corn noodle breakfast.
Oh my
DC,
God.
the dad,
And probably from your family because it's a funeral.
was the first to start to have seizures.
That's terrible.
After each seizure, his posture became more abnormal before his heart stopped beating, and the medical team wasn't able to resuscitate him.
Oh, that person
There's
died
no
too?
antidote for boncrecic acid poisoning. The best that the hospital could do was to treat the family's symptoms. As best as the medical team could try, the amount of boncrecic acid that was consumed
This is more evidence that humans were meant to eat red food and not disgusting vegetables.
was so far above
You
the known
lied.
lethal dose
Speak,
that there
King,
wasn't much
speak.
more for them to do. In America, despite growing and consuming so much corn, we don't really have fermented corn foods or drinks. Nor do we have that many popular fermented coconut dishes.
So what's
And
this?
certainly,
What?
almost none of these are homemade. But Burkholderia gladioli is in North America. It can infect humans often when the person has immunocompromise, or in the setting of cystic fibrosis,
sweet.
where the patient has a genetic mutation that causes their mucus to be extra thick,
my
disrupting
God.
flow in the body. Analysis of Burkholderia gladioli pathovar cocoveninans genes has revealed that strains
Baccalaureate ravioli, pathovar, cocoa, vanilla,
on all continents
raviolis,
contain the
bananas.
gene that produces boncrecic acid, meaning that should corn or coconut be fermented anywhere on Earth, this poisoning can happen. And it still happens today. In Taiwan, in 2024, there was a report of a food
Oh, freak.
poisoning outbreak from a restaurant
freak.
where 36 people got ill. When investigators looked closer, they found boncrecic acid. A chef might have handled food that was contaminated with the toxin that resulted in at least 5 fatalities. Or it's the food that might have been improperly processed in a way where Burkholderia gladioli contaminated it with produced toxin. When public health authorities responded to the initial report of this family, they quickly found the boncrecic acid culprit and notified the public.
Guys, this is gonna make me scared to eat anything.
Reports of this particular case instantly reached all around the world. In Indonesia, Tempe Bongkrek
Guys, I'm gonna be scared to eat coconuts, cocomelons, watermelons, noodles, fermented foods.
production was
Freak!
banned in 1988, but it doesn't mean that it isn't being produced at all. It still is. They can't stop local people from doing it in their homes. But
Okay, I would eat that anyways.
in
What
this
is that?
particular case, swantangzi production can still often be homemade because it's a
Tristan.
traditional local dish, and enforcing any possible ban would likely prove very difficult. Whether or not you come into contact with fermented corn or fermented coconut dishes, please be careful with frozen leftovers. It's not to scare you from all food. I
Well, you did just that, just so you
just want to
know.
remind you to be safe with the food that you have. Refrigerate promptly within
scared
3
now.
hours. Don't leave food in the refrigerator for more than a few days.
A few days! Guys! I have food from 2021! Oh,
Don't take it out
freak!
and leave it out for a day and then put it back in. Frozen foods can still go bad, and when preparing
Sir 50
make
detti.
sure that
I'm
utensils,
never eating broccolis,
the
ravioli,
kitchen, and your
coconuts again.
hands are clean. Sometimes it's not microbes that get you sick, but rather toxins made by the microbes that contaminated
It's
the
so
food
over.
that can make
Oh, wait, freezer! Yes, freezer!
you sick. And if you do come in contact with fermented corn or fermented coconut dishes, please just check to make sure that they were made by an experienced producer. This family's case was an accident.
Guys, I have frozen peas from 2023. Is that good or bad?
At autopsy for DC, MC, BC, and SC. Pathological findings were consistent with pancreatic acid poisoning, fatty liver, brain
It's okay? It's good? You're
herniation, and red and congested organs with widespread focal necrosis were found because the toxin shut down all energy released from the cells.
So wait, did they leave?
Causing widespread dysfunction and ending with this outcome. Because Ace was the only one who didn't eat the 1-year-old frozen leftover sour soup fermented corn noodles that day, he was the only one who survived.
Oh my god. Guys. Okay. So, if my family eats noodles, I think I'll eat it with them. Just so I don't leave. Just so I'm not the only one who survives. Okay. No, that's not the right thing to do. I should tell them not to do it.
The case for this family in China was a sad one. The potion was completely odorless, tasteless, and it proof, so cooking or eating it doesn't make it safe.
Yeah, that's what they said.
They were basically screwed from the start because of the farmers' lack of proper quality control.
Oh my god, and there's no way to see it. There's no way to find out. So, guys, what if you eat something and what if you go to a restaurant or
50
something?
franchi if it makes you feel better. The bacteria strain that causes this is not as common in the West. That
Really?
being said, stop being so corny.
Okay. Thanks.